County Planning Commission meeting. Please stand and join us for a pledge of allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Today's meeting was noticed in compliance with the South Carolina Freedom of Information Act. This commission acts in review and recommending capacity for comprehensive plan amendments, text amendments to the Charleston County Zoning and Land Development Regulations Ordinance, rezonings, and plan developments. The commission has decision-making authority on road name change requests, public project reviews, appeals of administrative decisions on final plats and subdivision matters, as well as other matters pursuant to Chapter 29, Title 6, Section 6-29-340 of the Code of Laws of South Carolina as amended. If you wish to speak at today's meeting, please fill out the sign-in sheet by the door. So here is the list of people who want to speak.
She'll bring it up later, yeah.
My name is Cindy Floyd. I'm the chair of the Planning Commission. To my right, Mark Bell, our attorney, Pete Pilatus, Luke Morris, Marlena Davis, and Adam McConnell. To my left, Joel Evans, the planning director, Warwick Jones, Logan Davis, and Kent Prowse. Okay. Joel, would you please introduce the staff?
Sure. Staff today with the planning department and others. Andrew Melisick, the deputy director. Emily Wynn, who will be presenting today. Marche Miller. And Monica is here. Good. Savannah is back there. She's manning the sign-in sheet. Emily Piggott will also be presenting today. And also we have Ariel Gerstein with the Deputy County Administrator's Office for General Services. She's our sustainability coordinator, and she has a short presentation today as well.
I would like to remind you that in order to get a good recording of the meeting for the minutes, please speak loudly and clearly into your microphones, and please do not talk over one another. The first item on the agenda is approval of the minutes from June 12th, 2023. Before we vote, I'd like to ask Director Evans to review the requirements for the meeting minutes.
Sure. Just so everyone knows, we work under Robert's Rules of Procedure. We did talk to the clerk for the council as well, and reviewed how we do the minutes, and they do them the same as we do. Having said that, though, we want to say that any of the details of all of our meetings that may not be in the minutes are available on YouTube, and we're going to be working with the IT department to try to get the minutes that are on YouTube, the recordings that are on YouTube, to be a little more annotated and easy to get to if you want more information.
Okay. Is there a motion on the June 12th minutes? Is there a second?
Second.
Call the roll.
Can we have discussion? Please.
Okay.
Thank you. I had spoken to the staff about this, and as you may recall, I think these are the minutes we're talking about, that they were pretty sparse. There wasn't a whole lot to them, and if these are those, they're great. Those are the kind of minutes I'm used to reading, and I would suggest that's probably the kind of minutes we probably ought to have. But I would also like to bring up that in the Rules of Procedure, which we discussed that a bit, Section 6 deals with minutes and Section 7 deals with Rules of Procedure, which is where the minutes are in. I guess these are all Rules of Procedure. That it says that it will be conducted in the latest edition of Robert's Rules of Order, except when in conflict with these stated rules and procedures, as this body amends, or with the requirements of state law or local ordinances. Well, minutes are included under state law, under the Freedom of Information Act, and it's Section 30-4-90, which got here on my phone. It says all public bodies shall keep written minutes of all of their public meetings. And that's a shall, that's not a may, and it specifically references written minutes. So I'm not sure that a videotape or an audio tape recording can substitute for that requirement of written minutes. Maybe we need a legal opinion on that, I don't know. But also, it goes on from there, under paragraph 3, it says, this is also required, shall. The substance of all matters proposed, discussed, or decided. And at the request of a member, the actual vote of individual members, but I think we do that anyways. And also on number 4, any other information that any member of the public body requests be included or reflected in the minutes. So if any one of us wants something added to the minutes, it needs to be added. But I guess I'm going back to the substance of all matters proposed. And there's no definition in the Freedom of Information Act of substance, but in the dictionary, Merriam-Webster, it's 1A, the essential nature, the essence. B, fundamental or characteristic part or quality of something. And 2B, the practical importance, meaning, and usefulness. So I'm pretty sure, at least it's my opinion, but I'm a planning commissioner and former planner, not a lawyer, and that it requires written minutes of some substance, and not just a recording of who makes motions and what the vote is.
Okay, well, we've reviewed this, we do the same minutes that the county council does, and also, I think by providing the link to YouTube, which also has a written transcript, I think that takes care of your problem, because that's in writing, and so that can supplement anything that we put here.
The writing might, but I would suggest, while we're on the topic then, that if that is indeed the case, that we formally reference those and part and parcel of these minutes.
Okay.
That they're one and the same.
I
Because
agree with you, and I made that suggestion.
Oh, very good. Because they do provide the official record of our proceedings, and we deal with important matters. Getting sued over one of them that this came about from this very instance. So that's a good suggestion. Thank you very much.
And what Joel was saying was that we're working with IT to actually annotate, so that we don't have that yet, but so that you won't have to go searching through the whole thing. You can go like, this will be in paragraph 7, this will be in paragraph 8 of the transcript.
Thank you.
Yes, Warwick?
I didn't understand. Are you saying that there is a transcript of the minutes, verbatim transcript of the minutes on the YouTube?
Yeah. YouTube, they write it out. I didn't know that either until.
Oh, well, I think that's very important. I never knew that either. So, I don't know, does that, I think your points are certainly worthy of discussion. The transcript, I think, makes some difference.
All right. Well, let me do this then, before we vote. I'll make a motion to amend that motion to approve the minutes to also include that YouTube verbatim transcript as part and parcel of our official minutes that we're
Would you accept that as a
approving.
friendly amendment, Warwick?
Yes.
And would you accept that as a friendly
Yes,
amendment?
yes.
I'm talking to your colleague right there. Okay. All right. Well, you can call the roll now.
Commissioner Logan Davis.
Aye.
Commissioner Marlena Davis.
Aye.
Chair Floyd.
Aye.
Commissioner Jones.
Aye.
Commissioner McConnell. Commissioner Morris.
Aye.
Vice Chair Pilatos. Commissioner Praza.
Aye.
The ayes have it.
The next item on the agenda is approval of the July 10th, 2023 meeting. Is there a motion and a second? And I'm assuming you want to why don't you make the motion on that?
Okay, I move that we approve the minutes as written and also as reflected in the verbatim text as included in the YouTube portion as described by staff.
That's your motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
Mr. Pilatus? Call the roll, please.
Commissioner Logan Davis,
Abstain.
Commissioner Marlena Davis, Chair Floyd,
Aye.
Commissioner Jones,
Aye.
Commissioner McConnell,
Aye.
Commissioner Morris,
Aye.
Vice Chair Palatos, Commissioner Praza.
Aye.
Ayes have it.
The next item, you ready to go forward? The next item on the agenda was to be a request to amend map 3.1.11 Highway 17 Corridor Overlay Zoning District, but that has been withdrawn.
Madam Chair, may I ask a question, please?
Certainly.
Can they just come back for this at any time, or is it withdrawal? Does it have any time frame? So in other words, can they just withdraw it, and then when the heat dies down,
Mr.
they...
Evans can address that.
If a public notice has been given, then there's a 1-year timeframe before they can come back. In my discussions with the applicant this morning, it didn't sound like they were interested in coming back.
Okay,
So, yeah.
thank you.
Which is why they asked for the withdrawal instead of a deferral. Yep.
Thank you.
Okay, the next item on the agenda is a request to amend PD 158, the Fratone Plan Development, to allow for medical office use and to accommodate associated parking. My understanding is that the applicant is asking to defer that, so is the applicant here and could speak to that?
Yes, we are asking for her and also asking
Can you go to the podium and state your name and address? Thank you. Yeah. Yes.
Good afternoon. I'm Sam Albenberg. My husband, Dave Albenberg, and I own Access Holdings. We're the applicant. We're not the property owner. We're under contract to purchase the property pending zoning. Based on some conversations we've been having with the neighbors, we've decided to ask for deferral and ask for deferral of the public commentary as well. We've got a lot more issues with the neighbors to work out, and we're hopeful to come back at, I think the next opportunity is the October meeting.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. The next agenda item is a request to rezone, what?
Yes, is there a motion to defer?
Oh, we need to vote on that, okay. Okay, if you have a motion to accept their deferral? Okay, we've got a second?
Second.
Would you call the roll, please?
Can I ask?
Oh, wait a minute, do you have discussion?
Yes, please. I mean, that is part of the protocol.
It is.
With a deferral, explain to me how that works, please.
So the deferral depends on how long the planning commission wants to give. If it's something different, the soonest possible one after meeting that the applicant could make is the 2 months after the date that they ask the deferral, because we cannot do our proper notifications for them to make the September meeting.
Right.
The deferral means that they're going to be working on the application and the package, and that whatever changes they want to make to it, everyone in the planning commission will see that, and the staff will give a presentation of just like you would normally see any other rezoning request, and it would go on to county council from there.
So there's no time limitation or anything other than what we stipulate?
Right. And there was not a stipulation here. I think the applicant said that they were going to try to make the October one.
Well, maybe there will be. Who knows? But I also wanted to speak to this whole issue of planned development ordinances, but no need to do it right now. We got another one coming up, so I can do it then. But I would like to amend that motion, if I may, and to specify a time frame that they come back. And I would also like to make a suggestion. Maybe I should have done that before. In my experience, it works best if the items keep appearing on the published agenda, but it's just noted that it has been deferred, so that way it remains focused and in front of us, our attention, so we know it's still out there, rather than just not even appearing on an agenda, and then, who knows, 2, 3, 4, 5 months, 6 months ahead, here it comes again. That's the suggestion. As far as a the time frame on it, I think we should probably set something, on the outside end. And I think the planning director's already told us they can't do it for 2 months. Is on the short end of it. Is that correct?
That's correct.
So I would say short end 2 months, long end 6 months as a time frame. That it would come back to us within 6 months if they hadn't already done it. We would take action on it at that time.
All right. Could you give us an idea of how much time you will need? Come over.
We would very much hope to be at the October meeting and moving forward. However, I think to put a time restriction on this is not pursuant to what we have understood as the process, and thus would limit us, although we do entirely expect to be coming back to the October meeting if we do move forward.
So you don't anticipate it, but you don't like the 6-month deadline either?
That's right, and I'm putting, for the record, as a lawyer, I have to say, I'm putting on the record I'm objecting to the deadline.
I'm sorry, could you say that again?
I just want to put it on the record that I'm objecting to a deadline for a timeline in which we could come back for the deferral.
Thank you.
But we do expect to come back very quickly.
Excuse me, may I respond to that?
Mr. Pallotta said something he wants to say.
Oh, sure, go ahead.
Just a question. So if, in the case of this deferral, if they're not back, if we say 6 months on the long end, they're not back by then what happens?
Well, in the past, when the Board of Zoning Appeals have given a time frame, the applicant can come and request an additional time, or it gets heard, or by then, the applicant might know whether or not they want to move forward with it.
Yes, my motion said that we would act on it if they had not come back within 6 months. And the reason why I say,
Action might be that we would extend the time frame.
we would just entertain it and take some type of action on it. It's just not going to just sit out there in limbo. And the reason why I say that is if you look at the history of it, it has a long and tortured history here. And the last actual council action on it, I believe, was in 2017, and nothing's occurred since then. So I am in response to your concern, I think we should have a concern that things just don't hang out there forever, and that we get a resolution in a timely manner. That's the reason for my motion.
So would you accept the 6 month?
If you don't agree, you can vote it down.
Well, he just said he would accept that.
We'll accept it and we'll see how they vote.
And who was the second?
I second. I'm withdrawing my second.
Okay.
I don't believe we should have a time restriction on that.
Clarity, if it is after 6 months not taken up by this body or extended for whatever purpose, what's next for the applicant? Can they just reapply then at that point? And so they just restarting a clock that's already started? I don't understand what the...
My understanding was that they could come back in and ask for more time.
Yeah, it would just.
So why sunset? Why does it, if it sunsets, I mean, it seems like it's 6 months, nothing happens, they don't reapply, they don't ask for an extension, it goes away. Then the following month, they just reapply for the rezoning again.
Well, it doesn't go away. It would just be out there forever, I guess. But all I'm saying is that there should be some resolution on it rather than it just being out there forever. And that this body would take it up on the agenda after 6 months and deal with it, unless it had been withdrawn.
So that action then, if we, without any request from the applicant, we took action in 6 months and we declined the rezoning, then that would kick off a year-long moratorium, or they would not be able to reapply then. Is that how that would work out? Can I get a legal interpretation on that?
Repeat the question, please.
Sure, no problem. So if, as proposed, an extension of 6 months to either reply or to come back to the body and ask for an extension, we're saying that at that point, this body will take action regardless and say deny that rezoning. In that case, would that establish a year-long, basically that year-long long moratorium that we'd have on that rezoning again because it was declined and it had to come back in that time frame? Is that sort of how that would be set up?
To answer your question, I would have to think further about how that would actually, impact this application. My advice to this body would simply be to just defer the item as originally stated today and leave it at that without deadlines. If you would like to keep the item in the forefront of this body's mind, I would suggest asking the planning director to make director's remarks at each planning commission meeting that this item is still pending, instead of adding any time parameters other than they requesting not to be heard today.
My motion.
So we still need a motion
Can I
on the
ask?
on the deferral.
So the situation at the moment, there is no deadline, it sort of just extends. We have no limitation at the moment.
Holy cow.
Sounds like the seconds for putting a limitation have
But the existing,
existing, that it was just deferral until the October meeting.
but if somebody, some other application, can they just leave it in abeyance and come back when they please?
Usually, if an applicant defers something, it's still active, and that staff will contact the applicant, say, and if time goes on, say, hey, what's your intent here? You eventually need to withdraw this if you're not going forward. That's usually what happens.
I don't know, the first time I'm thinking about it, can we just assume it's active until 12 months and then make a decision? I don't know, it's,
So the applicant has asked for a deferral. And the motions that have been made previously have been withdrawn.
Care
So,
to make a motion, if that's appropriate?
please do.
And after, if it gets a second, to provide further discussion, when and if that's appropriate. I move that we grant the requested deferral with the time frame attached to it, that it will not be back no sooner than 2 months, nor further, that if it has not come back within 6 months, that we will take action on it, whatever action that may be, and that
That's it.
that's it. That's my motion. That's it.
Okay, is there a second?
I have a motion. My motion would be to accept their request for a deferral with no time stipulations.
Okay. There's a motion and a second?
Discussion?
You want to do some more, discussion? or-
Yes, ma'am. I'm sorry if it seems to burden folks, but I think these things are important. Getting back to, I'm kind of new here.
We can-
Mr. McConnell's questions. We don't deny, I mean, we make recommendations to council. They're the ones that approve or deny rezoning requests. So in the event that it came back here and we entertained it and say they didn't show up, or even if they did show up, and we recommended denial, that would go on to town council, county council, and they would make the final decision. So in that regard, I don't think there's any kind of moratorium or time frame where they couldn't come back here, unless, if I'm understanding it correctly, unless there's a withdrawal. In which case, if it were a withdrawal, it would be a 1-year time frame before they could reapply. Thank you.
Anybody else have any further discussion? No. Can you call the roll?
Commissioner Logan Davis,
Which motion are we?
Your motion.
Just
My-
a straight, yeah.
My
straight
motion.
deferral.
Aye.
Commissioner Marlena Davis,
Aye.
Chair Floyd,
Aye.
Commissioner Jones, Commissioner McConnell,
Aye.
Commissioner Morris, Vice Chair Pilatos, Commissioner Praza.
Nay.
Ayes have it.
The next agenda item is a request to rezone tax map number 205-00-00-035 from a low-density residential R4 zoning district to PD 185, the Andale West Plan Development. Emily Wind is going to present this. No? All right, who's presenting? Okay, this is the
What's being
change.
said?
I can't hear.
She's saying, can the public make a comment about the deferral?
Make a comment about this deferral. There's quite a few people that came here to speak against this. We took time out of our day to come here and speak against this and against what I personally perceive as aggression on behalf of these people. And I think that them last minute asking for a deferral is an additional act of aggression. Can the public make their own comments as well?
Well, I think it would be more, we made the choice to not have public comment today because we think it would be more beneficial and a better use of time. And I understand that you took time out of your day, and I'm truly sorry that that's the way it worked out. But I think it would be more beneficial to wait till we see what the changes they may make before we actually do any more discussion. So my understanding is they're going to meet with the community, so they may be able to work something out between now and when it comes back
This is
up.
disrespect of everybody that came here of our time. They had the option
I
of asking to
understand.
remove this earlier today. I called this morning. I changed my day to come here. Johns Island is not down the street.
I live on
It's
Johns
over a
Island. I'm
30-minute
well
drive
aware.
here in each direction. These people have got our personal emails, which is a violation of my privacy from the county. These are, in my personal perception, aggressive people, and this is just another act of aggression. We should at least be able to speak against it.
Okay. Okay. Before we move on, would somebody like to make a motion regarding?
Make a motion. I would suggest that we let the people speak 2
Okay.
minutes.
So Mr. Jones has made a motion that we let the people that are here go ahead and speak with the
Thank you.
deferred.
Second.
I did it.
All right, we call, is there any other discussion?
I second it.
Okay, well,
I already did, but whatever.
any further discussion on that motion? All right. Call the roll, please.
Commissioner Logan Davis,
Aye.
Commissioner Marlena Davis,
Aye.
Chair Floyd,
Aye. Aye.
Commissioner Jones, Commissioner McConnell,
Aye.
Commissioner Morris, Vice Chair Pilatos, Commissioner Praza.
Aye.
The ayes have it.
Okay. So do we have a list?
Yes.
We're going to limit your comments to 2 minutes, please, and that's pretty standard for anybody who speaks in front of the commission.
Everyone that's on here, they all check except this one. Not this one. Is there one?
All right, this one's not.
Right,
You
that's
messed
not.
me up last time.
Right, yeah, it's not. Avita. Avita. I don't know how to say it.
Okay. Havital, Havital, Milts.
Yeah, Habitan Mills, thank you. So I'm dead set against this. We have quite a few new proposals.
Could you bring the mic closer to
Yes.
your mouth? Thank you.
I'm dead set against this for a few reasons. First of all, there are a few other medical facilities that want to be in that area. The roads do not accommodate that at all. Nobody wants the noise pollution of the potential ambulances. Nobody wants the potential issues with medical waste in this already fragile environment. I find the way that this person that wants to buy this property to be, like I said earlier, very aggressive. I don't know how they received my personal email. I actually called Joe Boykin. He claims that it's FOIA. We all know that FOIA can be redacted. My personal information is not for sale for other people's profit. These people clearly do not care for the community. They care for themselves. And as I mentioned earlier, just the request to delay it today again is another act of aggression. I think that that this is zoned for either real estate, accounting. I happen to be a tax accountant. I'd rather have somebody there that is my competition than have somebody potentially polluting my air, polluting my noise pollution. This really is not appropriate. There are 3 other medical facilities. One is already working, 2 additional ones that are, as far as I know, are already requested to be built. We don't need a 3rd one. Build more roads before you allow additional medical facilities. There's not enough people that live there to have so many doctors around. Thank you.
Ma'am,
Yes.
we need your address.
Yeah, 2782 August Road on Johns Island. And I do want to add one more thing. Ever since I spoke to Joy Boykin, I'm suddenly not receiving emails from the commission, and I find that very interesting, to say the least. He suggested that I stop receiving emails because my personal email was given. That's not a solution. Not giving out my personal email is a better solution. Thank you.
Sonia, I'm sorry, I'm having trouble reading the writing. Sonia Alberg, A-L-B-E-R.
I'll help you out.
Okay.
My name is Samia Albenberg. It's a hard one. It's Egyptian.
Sorry.
No problem. I'm the applicant. I probably best not to go into all the details of the application since we haven't had a presentation on it. I'll just say briefly, we got the personal email from the FOIA request for interested parties that the county keeps on file. The request to defer was actually made on Friday afternoon, and we've really enjoyed meeting with the neighbors. We had a great meeting on Thursday. Alexis Strobel has been amazing, and we're just going to continue working with them and figuring out whether this is the right fit, okay? Thank you.
David Alberg?
My name's Dave Albenberg. I've been here in Charleston for 30 years.
Address? Can you
I'm sorry,
give
235
your
Calhoun Street, downtown Charleston. Been owner-operator of Access Healthcare, Access Urgent, along with my wife, Samia, for 20 years. We have been getting requests from our patients probably for the last 10 years that hail from Johns Island to do something about their commute downtown. We have, to date, 680 patients that come from Johns Island, and you can predict that we're going to have to recheck their blood pressure if they're fighting the traffic on Maybank Highway. There are numerous requests that we've got. We are in the business of making friends with our patients and with our community. And so I've been pretty shocked by the amount of controversy surrounding the idea of bringing a healthcare facility to Johns Island where it's very much needed. Never been described as being adversarial before or aggressive, but I guess there's a first thing for everything. We'll have more time for comments in 2 months when we reconvene. Looking forward to more discussions with the neighbors so that we can hopefully sway them to see that we hope to add to the community and not pollute the environment, splay medical waste all over Bohicket, or threaten their incredible existence on the beautiful island. Thank you.
Melon Moore?
Good afternoon, Mellon Moore, 2712 Bohicket Road, Johns Island. I was part of the community that worked tirelessly for 6 months with Mr. Fatone to come up with the PD for this property. And I don't think it's justified that we as a community have to continue to fight this PD and what should be allowed there. And I'll hold other comments until after we actually have a presentation. Thank you.
Alex Strobel?
I'm here again on the same issue. It has been, 5 years. I have to say that it is a hot issue. Johns Island is a hot issue. What's going on Johns Island? Every corner is a hot issue. And respectfully so, Sam has met with me. I want to thank her. We have different perspectives, and yet we have been able to sit at a table and share my concerns, her desires. And I just want to say thank you because that's rare in this kind of climate. But with that said, I know this property. It's a dangerous property. Since 1999, it's been a sleeping commercial property. I'm going to be honest with you. Forget the amendment, the current PD that we have. I'm concerned about when it's active, do we have a giant, a dragon, a death trap? There are 3 major oaks. I can confidently say, with anybody in this room, I know what it's like to go on and off Bohicket Road, then back off. When they say they have patients on Seabrook and Kiowa, I'm concerned. It's about safety for me. I do want them to have a medical facility. I like Sam. I think she would be a great neighbor. I told her, I said, do you guys have another business? Because I'd really like you to be here, but not your medical facility. And I am looking forward to talking to her and Dave, and I thank them for at least sitting down at the table and listening to us. Thank you for your time and your service.
Robin Dias. If I mispronounce your name, I'm truly sorry.
Dias, it's correct. You actually said it correct. My name is Robin Dias, and I live at 3431 Plowground Road. And I will just follow up with what Alexa said. I went to the property, I drove into the property and out, and it was rather terrifying. And I drive a great big F-250 truck. And that is, I think, the biggest concern here is the safety of the people going up and down Bohicket. When this is surrounded by urban, there's no other commercial anything around there. And unless they do something with the roads for making a 3-lane and something safe, there's going to be a lot of people whose blood pressure is raised. So I thank y'all for your time.
John Zolgar? Or is it John?
John Slogar.
Zolgar. Is John here?
No, he's
You
not.
want to talk? Okay. You checked.
Pat.
And Patton Webb.
Good afternoon. Thank you for the opportunity. My name is Patton Webb, and I work with Ravenel Commercial Properties. I live at 851 Sand Lake Drive in Mount Pleasant. I've been assistant to Albergenberg ever since the concept of this property. And I've been in this business 45 years, done a lot of development, seen a lot of development. They have been the most neighbor-friendly couple that I've ever seen to look at a piece of property. The only thing they've asked for this PUD to be changed is it's commercial property anyway. So somebody's going to develop it as a commercial property. But the only thing they needed was to add to the office, general office use, a medical office. And they have met with the neighbors. They have never been aggressive. They've been the most kind people I've ever been around to develop it. They have the neighborhood in their minds. They will help the neighborhood. The little lane beside it, Partnership Lane, will be part of their improvement of the ingress and egress of this property. So thank you very much. It's been a good working relationship. Thank you all.
We don't have anyone else who's signed up to speak on this, so we will move on to the next agenda item. Okay. Once again, the next agenda item is a request to rezone tax map number 20500-00-035 from low-density residential R4 zoning to PD 185 and L West Plan Development. We have the presentation now.
Yep. Good afternoon. Thank you, Cindy. This is a request, like you said, to rezone TMS 20500000365 and a portion of parcel 356 from the R4 zoning district to the Andale West Commercial Plan Development. Prior to 1999, the subject properties were zoned agricultural general and were rezoned upon the adoption of the ZLDR in 2001 to low-density suburban. The low-density suburban zoning district was renamed low-density residential R4 in 2006. In June of 2022, the applicant initially submitted a request to rezone parcel 365 to community commercial, but requested deferral and ultimately withdrew that application with the intent to submit an application for a plan development. You may recall that the applicant held a workshop following the July 11th, 2022 Planning Commission meeting to present their conceptual plan development plan. Later in September of 2022, the applicant submitted a formal PD application. That application was heard at the October 10th, 2022 Planning Commission meeting, where the commission voted to recommend disapproval, though the applicant continued on to a public hearing at County Council, where residents voiced many concerns over the proposal. Following the public hearing, the applicant deferred the request several times, ultimately requesting to withdraw the application and waive the one-year waiting period, which was approved by County Council back in March. Following that withdrawal, the applicant worked with the community to address many of their concerns and has submitted this updated plan development request, which includes a proposed subdivision plat to include a portion of parcel 356. This is where the property is located within the county. This is the proposed subdivision plat. The plat is in an approvable state and will be recorded if the rezoning is approved. The new proposed subject property is outlined in red. The future land use designation of both subject parcels is urban-suburban mixed use. And the subject properties are currently undeveloped and zoned R4, though they have been used for parking for golf tournaments. Properties to the north and south are also zoned R4. Properties to the west are within the town of Kiowa Island zoned plan development and contain the Freshfields Village development. The subject property, as I mentioned, has been used to accommodate parking for PGA tournament events. The subject properties are located within flood zone AE. Here's the subject property to view to the north. Just a note that this aerial view does not outline the portion of parcel 356 that is included in this request. And the same goes for this aerial view to the south. These are photos of the subject property and of the adjacent Freshfields Village, as well as the property across Kiowa Island Parkway. This is the revised conceptual site plan. And a comparison of land uses, including for comparison types of uses that would be allowed in CC. The proposed PD will allow many commercial uses similar to those allowed in CC district. However, they will not be allowing drive-throughs for fast food restaurants or many of the light industrial uses that can be allowed in CC. Those will not be allowed in this plan development. And here's a comparison of the density, intensity, and dimensional standards between R4, the current zoning, the proposed PD, and the CC zoning district for comparison. In addition to the proposed changes you saw on the last two slides, the applicant is also proposing 20% of the lot to be open space, a 100-foot type J buffer along Kiowa Island Parkway, in addition to a 10-foot buffer along adjacent R4 properties, and a pedestrian and bike path. The applicant did submit a traffic study done in coordination with the town of Kiowa Island, which recommended a left-hand turn lane onto Kiowa Island Parkway, as well as to monitor the intersection for the future need of a traffic light. Per the ZLDR, a plan development application can be approved if it meets these three criteria. Staff does find that all three criteria have been met. Because the approval criteria have been met, staff recommends approval with the following conditions: obtaining letters of coordination from St. John's Fire Department and the USPS, as well as contacting staff to have the subdivision plat for the portion of TMS 20500036356 included in the PD, recorded within 30 calendar days of third reading approval of the PD. One letter in opposition has been received for this request. 5 letters in support have been received for this request. and this request was noticed as required.
Okay. Thank staff for that report. Okay. Is there anyone present who wishes to speak in support of the proposed amendment? Come up and tell us your name and address, and you got 2 minutes. Go.
Here's your.
All right, Warren, I can't read you guys right.
Hello.
Are you Warren Laser?
I am Chris Carrata, and I am the applicant with Riverstone Properties, 800 East Canal in Richmond, Virginia. Talked a lot about deferrals. As you saw, we've been through quite a lot of deferrals and redesigns of this plan, and I just would like to thank the community. It's been a long process, but we've gotten somewhere where I think everyone's happy, and it's a true win-win. I'm thankful to have the town of Kiowa support the request, and Cacique Homeowners Association support the request. And I'll be here to answer any questions. I'd also like to thank staff, who's really been helpful helping us navigate your process. So any questions, let me know. But obviously, I'm in support.
I think we've seen this before.
You've seen it, yeah, we've met.
Okay. These are the applicants, so did they need to speak?
Yeah, I mean, they signed up to speak. So Warren Laser, yeah. And so,
Warren Laser?
yeah.
Okay, Warren Laser? I'm sorry,
It
this is.
says that we recommended disapproval, but if I recall, it was deadlocked.
Thank you for this opportunity. My name is Warren Lash, 256 Grass Garden Lane, Johns Island. I'm the president of the Cacique Homeowners Association, which is the closest property to the planned development. And I'd like to introduce Vanna White, Sally Wackham, who is our community manager. Can you back up, Sally, so I can read it? Last year, we were here in very strong opposition to this planned development. Very, very strong. Here we are a year later, and we're here with very strong support. And I'd like to go over just a couple of items. Why did we change? There's key concepts here. Freshfield Village in this planned development is a seamless integration. Our concern was 2 competing different shopping centers. That has now changed. Pedestrian and vehicular connectivity. They're going to minimize site and light off-site impacts. And the Harris Teeter store has been moved back off the parkway. And this is going to be a phased-in development, not one big plop all of a sudden. Next slide. Dana. There's going to be architectural harmony. Riverstone is dedicated to unique and diverse architectural styles, and they're going to adhere to the Freshfield guidelines and standards. They're going to create it's going to create a seamless experience for both visitors and customers and residents, and it's going to complement the existing charm and appeal of Freshfield Village. I may need another minute. Is that possible? 2 quick slides. Can I take Sally's turn? Okay. We are now going to have a pond, park, and trails. The pond's going to be behind the grocery store, and we're going to have a linear trail, which basically is going to give us a use for both walkers and bicyclers, which we did not have in the original. And finally, we're going to have a 100-foot buffer along the parkway and a minimum of 20% open space within the development. And both Riverstone and Kiowa Island Conservancy are working on the developing the landscape plan. Thank you for your time. Sorry I went over. We very much support this project.
John Zolgar?
John Zlogar with the Johns Island Task Force, 5528 Frisco Lane, Johns Island. we've been up there several times, and then each time we've appreciated what the developer has done in terms of working with the community. I think that, there's a huge amount of development pressure on Johns Island, and, keeping commercial developments within the commercial nodes is going to be key to make sure that development stays in check. So we really appreciate that this development is in one of those commercial nodes as opposed to up Betsy Caris or Bohiggett Road. So we recommend that you approve this application. Thank you.
John Taylor.
Madam Chair, members of the commission, my name is John Taylor, planning director for the town of Kiowa. Just wanted to bring greetings on behalf of the town. You've received a letter formally from the mayor and members of council supporting this project. So just to reiterate, the applicant, Riverstone Chris and his team have done a number of trying to settle a lot of concern, and the town has been supportive of this project, and we look forward to working through any additional needs to see this project through. So thank you.
David Vincent signed up, but he didn't check that he wanted to talk. Was that you?
Are you David Vincent?
Are you David Vincent?
No, I'm not.
Okay, well, you were supposed to sign up.
I got caught in a traffic jam getting here. It was 5 minutes late.
Okay. Well, you'll have to give us your name and address.
Perry Molinoff, 10 Blue Heron Pond Road on Kiowa Island.
Okay.
I'm the chairman of Preserve Kiowa, a 501c3 dedicated to good governance and responsible development. We were very much opposed to this plan a year ago and are pleased to be able to support it now. The integration of the plan for the new development with the existing Freshfield Village and the commitment to maintain an architectural harmony with Freshfield Village makes a very big difference. I would also like to point out that Riverstone and Mr. Kuroda were really remarkably cooperative, sought out community input, and responded in essentially every case. I would like to raise two issues. The first is the 80% lot coverage seems high to me, and I wonder if it would be possible to consider reducing that to 70, maybe by increasing buffer or increasing the size of the green space. And the second is that in personal communications, Mr. Kuroda has committed that the fuel center would not include a convenience store and that the fuel center would not accommodate large trucks. Obviously, our goal is to make sure this doesn't become a highway truck stop, and I would hope that you would be willing to confirm those commitments in this public forum. Thank you.
Sir, Marsha, did you get his name and address since he didn't? Okay, thank you. Yeah.
All right. Is there anyone here that would let, oh, wait a minute.
Okay.
This is all the people, right?
That's it.
Okay. So those are all the people who signed up to.
Except for the guy that, Vincent.
Or
didn't check, yeah.
That's his name, he didn't show up. Okay. All right. No one else has signed up to speak. So is there any motion and a second from the commission?
Second.
Okay. All right. Any discussion?
Yes.
Okay. If it's a procedural, is it a procedural matter?
No.
Okay.
It's a substantive matter.
Okay.
Sorry to be the dead cat in the punch bowl, but I have some concerns about it. Can we go to the slide that shows the comp plan recommendation, please?
The map of the future
No,
land
the
use?
text. Bingo, right there. B. Let's see. Is that it? I'm having a hard time seeing it. Let me look behind me. Yes, I'm gonna try and read it from here. That the comprehensive plan recommends compatible mixed-use development in a general land use pattern that includes a variety of housing types, retail, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Well, it definitely does that, but I don't see any variety of housing types in this PD, which would lead me to believe that it is incompatible with that recommendation. Now, I spoke to staff about that, and they said that in their interpretation, the R4 zone property around it, and actually this property, which it is zoned R4, would meet that requirement. But I asked staff again when I got here, what does R4 allow? And the things that R4 allows in the way of a variety of housing types, they're not even permitted as a use of right. No apartments are allowed. It does allow it allows detached single-family residential. It makes reference to, I believe, duplexes, triplexes, quadruplexes, maybe even townhouses. But they are all most of them are special exceptions, which require an additional approval from the Board of Zoning Appeals, and or conditional uses, which have to meet certain specified conditions. But I would suggest that it doesn't meet this, that it really should have that the compatible or a variety of housing types. And there's no guarantee that there ever will be a variety of housing types developed around it. So that's my comment. And I guess I've got other comments about the whole concept of a single-use PD, which I don't know, maybe y'all can help me with appropriate format for dealing with that going forward. I don't want to take up too many everybody's time right here and now. But anyways, I thought those comments were appropriate, and thanks for allowing me to make them.
Okay, anybody else?
Maybe that's a strict interpretation, but really, if it is...
Speaking to the mic, I'm having
I'm sorry.
trouble hearing.
Maybe that's a strict legal interpretation, but does it really detract from the quality of the development? I don't think so, but if you're going to be, very, pedantic is not the right word, strict, then maybe you're right. But I don't know. I don't know if we, in terms of equity or whatever, how it looks. It seems okay to me.
Well, may I respond? If it's not intended to be in there, that's easy enough. It can be taken out. But the fact that it's in there, it means something. And I don't think it should just be...
There's a whole list of things in there, and that is like one item on the list. So there's like retail spaces, employment opportunities, all that.
Sure.
If you read the rest of the verbiage,
Mess
I
this
think
thing
that,
up.
it doesn't say it has to have everything.
Well, I think I messed my mic up. Doesn't seem to, is that better? Maybe there. Well, and with all due respect, I don't think it's there so that you can pick and choose which things are supposed to be there and which aren't. Council has adopted it by ordinance, so all of it is equal to all the rest of it. It doesn't include any type of hierarchy that says this stuff is more important than that stuff, or this stuff should be here and it's okay not to have that stuff, which is easy enough to fix. Because if it's not intended to be there, as I said, it could be removed. Words matter, and we go through a process of adopting a comprehensive plan that makes specific recommendations. We go through a process to adopt zoning ordinances that reflect the recommendations of that plan, and those are important things, I think. That's all. Thank you.
Anybody else?
I'd like to commend the applicant for taking all of the recommendations from the last meeting, as well as obviously the residents. In city planning, nodes last longer than roads, last longer than buildings, and I understand your concerns about mixed use and residential potentially. I think that if the market had it in the future or whatever you'd want to change, that'd be great. But I think that right now, as the plan stands, it's a good plan, and I think it's taken a lot of feedback and improved substantially.
Anybody else?
Yeah, I'll just reiterate that. I think the developer's done a great job here. I know the record shows that we disapproved, but I think that was technicality on a deadlock last time this was read, and y'all have done a lot to improve and take on additional green space. So I commend you for that.
You guys okay down there? Okay. If there's no further discussion, it's time for the vote. Could you call the roll, please?
Commissioner Logan Davis,
Aye.
Commissioner Marlena Davis,
Aye.
Chair Floyd,
Aye.
Commissioner Jones,
Aye.
Commissioner McConnell, Commissioner Morris,
Aye.
Vice Chair Pilatos, Commissioner Prazo.
Nay.
The ayes have it.
County Council will hear this request at their public hearing September 12th, 2023 at 6:30 PM here in council chambers, and again at their September 21st, 2003 Planning and Public Works Committee meeting at 5:00 PM. The request must then undergo 3 readings for approval at council's discretion. The next agenda item is the Comprehensive Plan 5-year review. First, we'll hear an update from staff on the Comprehensive Plan 5-year review process. Angela, are you going to do that? Andrea, are you going to do that?
Ariel Gerstein is going to give, yeah. Oh, you're going to do the comp
Yeah,
plan,
oh, sorry, yeah, just about the public workshops. We have one more public workshop left, August 28th on Edisto Island. We haven't had great attendance at some of our recent ones, unfortunately. We do have 15, 16 comments from online, so any help we can get with getting the word out, we're trying our best to get it out, but that survey will be open online until August 30th, and then we'll download all the comments we get from that and combine them with the public workshop comments so we can get them to each of the committees.
Thank you. Okay, now we'll hear a presentation regarding the energy element from the county's sustainability coordinator, Ms. Ariel Gerstein.
Hi, good afternoon. I'm Ariel Gerstein, Sustainability Manager for Charleston County. I'm going to be talking about the energy element in the comprehensive plan and why sustainability is recommended to be added to the existing energy element in the updated comprehensive plan. Okay, so just a little background on the energy element. It was added about 10 years ago to the comprehensive plan. At that time, the country was dealing with rising fuel prices, and this element was a way to provide information about alternative energy sources that could lead to increased energy independence. The energy element also promotes resource conservation, further investment in renewable energy sources, and educates the public on these topics. So, what's exactly included in the energy element? And this is before we're getting into the sustainability piece. So it basically includes 3 main topics of information. It includes the current energy profile in Charleston County, including the percentages of renewable and non-renewable energy sources based on utility data, recommendations for further energy independence in the county, and information about what sectors are the largest sources of energy consumption. And the largest sources are listed on your slide there. So now I'm going to provide some background about sustainability in the county and how it fits in with the energy element. So 2 years ago in 2021, the county decided to hire a sustainability coordinator along with a chief resilience officer. The same year, the county council passed a climate action resolution, which was included in your handouts today, if you want to take a look at that. The resolution is focused on climate action through public education, collaboration with other local governments, and the development of a climate action plan. So just some information about work that has been done to date in relation to climate action and sustainability. So climate action is focused on reducing greenhouse gas emissions with a focus on carbon dioxide. To accomplish that, we first have to know what our emission levels are. So that's why I completed a greenhouse gas inventory, which was also included in your handouts for 2018 and 2020. Now I'm working on developing a climate action plan, which will establish reduction targets in the short term and long term, and also outline actions and activities the county will need to take to achieve these targets. The climate action plan will also help us to provide a roadmap for capital expenditures in the future budget cycles. In addition, the Chief Resilience Officer is creating an all-hazard vulnerability and risk assessment. At the same time, I've also worked on actions that benefit the community. Those are listed in the second part of this slide. These actions all happen with the collaboration of other county departments or other local governments. I've worked closely with Katie McCain, the Director of Sustainability for the City of Charleston, This year, we installed the county's first electric vehicle chargers for public use. We're also using them for 2 newly purchased Nissan Leafs and the fleet's motor pool. The county joined the city's program, which is now a Charleston regional program and opening a compost drop-off site at Bees Ferry. Folly Beach, Isle Palms, and Mount Pleasant have also joined the program. In 2022, the city and county co-hosted an electric lawn care equipment event in Lowe's at West Ashley. And in September, we're co-hosting again with the city an informational event for residents about electric vehicles. And in terms of outreach, I also manage social media for sustainability for the county through Facebook and Instagram accounts. All right, so these are some of the government-specific actions included. I already mentioned we purchased the county's first 2 Nissan Leafs, or electric vehicles. The county's facilities department is also working on ongoing LED lighting projects, which will reduce energy use and save the county money on utilities. I track the county building energy and water use in EPA's Energy Star Portfolio Manager program, which allows us to see if our energy use is higher than the average building of the same use and make future plans for energy reduction. In addition, I publish a monthly article about events in the county or general information about sustainability. As part of Green Liaisons, which is an internal group focused on green initiatives in the county, we established battery drop-off sites in 8 county buildings for staff, and we also completed a printing reduction competition for departments. The county is also using Green Globes, which is a green building certification program similar to LEEDs, if you're familiar with that, for public-facing new building construction. In addition, the county administrator directed we build all new county buildings to Category 3 hurricane standards. Okay, so now that I've provided some background about the energy element and sustainability at the county, I will discuss why we decided to add sustainability to the energy element. As already mentioned, the county is focusing on sustainability and climate actions after the passage of the Climate Action Resolution. The climate action work will focus on greenhouse gas reduction, particularly from the building and transportation sectors. One of the most impactful ways to reduce greenhouse gases is to reduce energy use and switch energy sources to renewable sources. Therefore, it's important to understand the connection between energy and greenhouse gases. And sustainability and resiliency will also be part of the county's strategic plan, which those goals are based on what is important to our current county council. So this slide shows what information is recommended to be added to the updated energy and sustainability element. So it's how increased greenhouse gases cause climate change, types of greenhouse gases, effects on the environment and human health. The element also defines sustainability and discusses the greenhouse gas inventory. It also provides updates to the strategies and action items, which I'll discuss more on the next slide. So here's a list of some of the strategies outlined in the updated element. These strategies are included to support the work the county is doing in sustainability. So I'm not going to read this word for word, but just this will give you kind of a general sense. We want to identify energy reduction programs, identify activities to reduce landfill emissions, coordinate more with CARTA on an energy efficient mass transit system, and coordinate energy reduction and sustainability related efforts within the county and across jurisdictional boundaries. So, tackling greenhouse gas emissions is vital to decreasing the environmental and human health effects of climate change. Adding this information to the energy element allows the county to have a formal mechanism to work on reducing building, transportation, and waste emissions associated with climate change. It is important that the comprehensive plan supports the activities that will be outlined in the Climate Action Plan at a high level. So this is just some information about Charleston's climate from 2014 to 2021. The reason these years were chosen because it's a table that is in the greenhouse gas inventory, with the exception of I added 2021 for this meeting since the plan was only going through 2020. To calculate the cooling and heating degree days, the average daily temperature, so I'm talking about the last 2 rows of the table, the average daily temperature is compared to 65 degrees Fahrenheit If the average daily temperature is above 65 degrees Fahrenheit, the day is categorized as a cooling degree day. And if the average daily temperature is below 65 degrees Fahrenheit, the day is categorized as a heating degree day. So it's kind of the opposite is what you would think. So the cooling degree days is actually we're getting hotter, heating, we're getting cooler. So it's a little bit confusing. Just want to point that out. So basically, we're just trying to show here that the hotter days are increasing and the cooler days are decreasing over time. And I also have a stat there about tidal flooding, that we've seen an increase in recent years. 89 events in 2019, 69 in 2020. Compared to the 1990s, we saw an average of 25 tidal flooding events per year. This slide is just a repeat of some of the strategies included, just to serve as a reminder of what we are recommending to put in the energy element for sustainability. And that is all I have. I'm happy to take any questions. Thank you.
Anyone have any questions for the presenter?
Yes, no questions, but if I could make a comment. Thank
In
you.
addition to the ones when we're going to recognize you later, or?
Beg your pardon?
In addition to when we're going to recognize you later?
Yes, yes, yes. I have a big problem with all of this, and I see the resolution of the council, so I just want to go on the record to say that a lot of people have issues about what is occurring in terms of the climate. As an ex-geologist, I would say that the temperatures of the world have been increasing for 30,000 years. Sea levels were 200 feet less 30,000 years ago than what they are today. It wasn't CO2 emissions that were causing it, it was something else. That sea change, the rising temperature has been going on, and it's continuing to go on, and it will go on, I think, regardless of carbon dioxide. There's a lot of hype out there, and I'm not going to go through it now because I didn't come prepared for it, but there's a lot of issues with some of the data that is coming out. But one thing I will say before I quit is that in your comments in relation to the impact or mitigation of greenhouse gases or whatever, there is no comment on the economic cost, and that is dramatic. Let me just go back and say that the emissions of China and India exceed that by the US by a great amount, and neither country is making any attempt to curb them. China in particular is putting in more coal-fired plants, so the chances are the CO2 will continue to be emitted, whatever the US decides to happen. The economic cost of converting to convertibles, and I'm quoting from other people, I don't have the record, but it's going to lead to dramatic increases in electricity prices. And I don't know whether we're prepared to do that. The world cannot get along presently without fossil fuels. We need it for so many things, for the asphalt, for gas, for chemicals and plastics. It's just not possible. There's a survey that was done on the cost of renewables and coal and nuclear power in Texas. The cost of renewables was about 10 times more than natural gas or coal. Can you not see what the impact would be on the economy if we adopted all of these renewables? I'll just leave it at that. Thank you.
Any other questions for the presenter? Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. Next agenda item is a presentation regarding proposed amendments to the zoning and land development regulations related to historic preservation.
Energy Warwick's.
Oh, sorry. My bad. Excuse me, I skipped a thing. We'll now hear from the commissioner. Well, no, he already did his thing.
No, I've got,
Oh,
still
you
got to
more?
go.
Okay. Go for it, Warwick.
Thank you, Madam Chair, for the overture to my comments. I propose that the energy and sustainability element be removed from the comprehensive plan. Those parts of the element that could be influenced by county policy should be considered for conclusion in other elements. I referred to both the draft written by staff and that prepared by myself. Why? Let's start with the state law. It mandates the comp plan and the inclusion of elements. You're familiar with them all: population, economic development, natural resources, etc. These are all areas which the county policy can significantly impact. The state law does not include energy and sustainability. I can only speculate why. It was because counties and municipalities have little or no say in determining policy. Energy policy is largely defined by the federal government and to a lesser extent the state government. I do not know if any other counties or municipalities have introduced an energy element in their plans. Those in Charleston County have not. Now let's move to the state statutes, in particular that dealing with the comprehensive plan necessary to be prepared by counties and cities. It is section 6-29540, titled Review of Proposals Following Adoption of Plan, Projects in Conflict with Plan, Exemption for Utilities. It seems the section is an attempt to put utilities outside the scope of the comp plan. It is the final sentence that got my attention. I read it, it's a bit lengthy. Telephone, sewer and gas, and I'll quote, telephone, sewer and gas utilities or electric suppliers, utilities and providers, whether publicly or privately owned, whose plans have been approved by local government body or state or federal agencies, or electric suppliers, utilities and providers who are acting in accordance with the legislative delegated right pursuant to Chapter 27 or 31 of Title 58 or other, are exempt from this provision. In other words, the comp plan can't regulate utilities. So why are we attempting to put back the power utilities into the comp plan? And finally, an assertion of the state's authority by Governor McMaster 2 months ago. I quote, "The state entity Power SC will play a critical role in various aspects of the state's energy future. It will develop an updated state energy plan with the Office of Regulatory Staff, facilitating additional coordination between the state's utility providers. It will also assess opportunities to incorporate additional nuclear power production and natural gas pipelines or generation capacity." Please note the emphasis on nuclear and natural gas, and there is no mention of coordination with counties or municipalities. Finally, on the issue of the greenhouse gases, South Carolina is looking sweet. If announced plans come to fruition by 2030, only one coal-fired plant will be operating in the state. The shuttered coal-burning plants will be replaced by solar and natural gas. With nuclear producing more than half of the state's electrical and state's electricity, our carbon footprint now is comparatively low. It will be much lower in 5 years' time, with coal accounting for only 6% of the total power generation capacity. But can carbon footprint and unit costs go much lower? They are already close to the lowest amongst US states. Because of the inability to store electricity and the uncertainty of continued supply by solar panels, fossil fuel plants will still be needed to ensure supply in peak periods. Let's be realistic. A carbon-free future cannot be possible, or can be possible, at what risks and cost? Finally, to sum up, there is no need or purpose to include an energy element. It does little or nothing in guiding the Commission or Council, as control is beyond us. And if we do include energy as an element, is its inclusion a precursor to political comments on other areas out of control, like immigration, monetary policy, education? Producing, collating, and editing the comp plan is a large undertaking. It does not need to be burdened by pointless expansion. We should take a harder look at some of its deficiencies. In my view, the plan needs to be thoroughly edited with a reduction in size. Presently, it is too verbose, in my opinion, and with information that is not relevant nor important. It desperately needs to be more concise. I look forward to your views. Thank you. Shall I make a motion? I make a motion that the energy element be scrapped from the comp plan.
Is there a second? Hearing none, I guess we will move on to the next agenda item. Proposed amendments to the zoning and land development regulations relating to historic preservation. Emily Pickett's going to give us a presentation on that.
Thank you, Chair Floyd. Good afternoon. Today I will be presenting amendments to the zoning and land development regulations, also known as the ZLDR, related to historic preservation. First, I want to briefly discuss how we got to where we are today in terms of historic preservation regulation at the county level. In April of 2014, the Planning Commission established the Historic Preservation Committee to help implement the goals and strategies of the cultural resources element of the comprehensive plan, specifically protecting historic African American communities from inconsistent development and preserving structures that are important to the history of our county, to prevent demolition of significant structures such as the Limehouse Produce Shed, which was razed in 2013. The Historic Preservation Committee established their own goals, which included updating the county's historic resources survey. This project was completed in 2016 with funding from the State Historic Preservation Office. Additionally, the committee sought to revise the county's historic preservation regulations because at the time, they only provided protections for properties listed on the National Register of Historic Places. So the current historic preservation ordinance was created as a result of these efforts. So the current historic preservation ordinance was adopted in August of 2018, and it is part of the county's code of ordinances, so it is not part of the ZLDR. The ordinance accomplishes the following. 1, it sets up a historic preservation commission. 2, it establishes a process to designate historic properties and districts. And 3, it creates a process where proposed changes to historic properties and districts are reviewed and determined to be appropriate in their historic context. So, like stated previously, while the Historic Preservation Ordinance is separate from the ZLDR, there is language in the ZLDR that helps to implement the Historic Preservation Ordinance. So in Chapter 3, the Development Review Procedures, it discusses the notification requirements for applications reviewed by the Historic Preservation Commission. Chapter 3 also states that, when applicable, certificates of historic appropriateness shall be obtained prior to site plan review approval. Chapter 8, Subdivision Regulations, states that a certificate of historic appropriateness is required prior to subdivision plat approval for properties located within 300 feet of historic properties and districts. And just to clarify, certificates of historic appropriateness are granted by the Historic Preservation Commission in order to ensure that any alteration, modification, relocation, demolition, addition to, new construction, rehabilitation, or restoration of a historic property or on a property within a historic district, or subdivision or development of property located within 300 feet of a historic property or district is in keeping with the historic, cultural, and architectural character of the historic property or district. So to date, there have been 3 properties and 3 districts designated as historic at the county level. The properties include the Hebron Center on Johns Island and St. Mark, UME, and Bethel AME churches in the Red Top community. Additionally, the Phillips and 10 Mile communities in the East Cooper area, as well as the Beefield community on James Island, has been designated as historic districts. The Historic Preservation Ordinance has been amended 3 times since its adoption in 2018. In April of 2021, it was amended to remove the application requirement for owners of property within proposed historic districts to sign restrictive covenants affidavits. In October of the same year, it was amended again to exempt certain application types from the CHA requirements. And in October of 2022, the ordinance was amended to exempt specific types of zoning permit applications from the CHA requirements, create a process for modifications to approved CHAs, and require HPC approval prior to the Board of Zoning Appeals approval when applicable. Apologize if the text is getting a little messed up. I think the font must have converted. So if anybody needs any assistance, please let me know. So recently, the Historic Preservation Commission requested guidance on restructuring the approval criteria for certificates of historic appropriateness in order to help guide decision-making. So when reviewing the ordinance, the following additional changes were identified and proposed, which include 1, removing subdivision plat application approval from the HPC's purview because state law places the authority of subdivision regulation under the powers and duties of the Planning Commission. 2, clarify the list of exemptions for certificates of historic appropriateness and simplify the approval criteria. 3, create a process to amend designated historic properties and districts to identify contributing resources, area character appraisals, and other supporting documentation. 4, add posted notice requirements for certain application types. And 5, updates to the definition section. In addition to these amendments to the Historic Preservation Ordinance, an amendment to the fee ordinance is proposed to include a fee for processing applications to amend historic properties and districts. So again, that's not something that we'll be considering today, but just wanted to give you some context as to what you'll be seeing in the ZLDR. So again, staff is proposing changes to the ZLDR to complement the proposed amendments to the Historic Preservation Ordinance, and we will review those red lines next. Before I bring up the red lines, I wanted to note that 36 letters in opposition to the proposed amendments to Chapter 8, Subdivision Regulations, were received in advance of today's meeting. Okay, so going through the red lines now, starting with Section 3.1.6, notices. In this section, staff is proposing to remove the 3 historic preservation-related applications from this table, as these requirements are outlined in the Historic Preservation Ordinance and are not regulated by the ZLDR. All right. In Section 3.6.1, application filing, staff is proposing to add the following language. When decisions from both the Board of Zoning Appeals and the Historic Preservation Commission are required, the Board of Zoning Appeals decision must occur prior to the Historic Preservation Commission. This is a proposed change in the current process, as the current Historic Preservation Ordinance requires HPC approval prior to BZA approval. In Section 3.7.1, applicability, in this section, staff is proposing that site plans must be in an approvable state prior to placement on a Historic Preservation Commission agenda. This is to codify how the process is currently being administered. And lastly, in Chapter 3, in Section 3.10.2, application filing, the proposed text in this section again states that BZA decisions must occur prior to the HPC meeting. So as I discussed earlier, this is a proposed change to the current process. And since the Board of Zoning Appeals is the entity that can approve exemptions or reductions to zoning-related dimensional design or performance standards in the form of variances, it would be more efficient to have these potential exemptions approved prior to review by the HPC. All right, and lastly, in Chapter 8, in Section 8.1.2, applicability of the subdivision regulations, staff is proposing to remove language stating that certificates of historic appropriateness are required prior to subdivision plat approval for properties within 300 feet of historic properties or districts. This amendment is proposed because staff has been advised that the Historic Preservation Commission review of subdivision plats conflicts with South Carolina State Law, Section 629-340, where the authority of subdivision regulations is placed under the powers and duties of the Planning Commission. Thank you.
We appreciate staff's comprehensive report. Are there any questions for staff from the commission members?
I have a question. Oh, go ahead.
No, you go ahead.
I've monopolized too much. You
No,
go ahead.
No, go ahead.
All right.
Please.
I've heard comments about the term approvable state and then see it here in writing. Is there a definition for that term?
We use that to determine whether or not the application is approvable, so that, for instance, Mr. Prowse, you might appreciate this, Board of Zoning Appeals applications. If someone is asking for a variance for buffers or parking requirements, we need that site layout plan that shows exactly where the building and the parking and the buffers is going to be. But we don't require the site plan review approval. That requires the final stormwater approval and the calculations, the landscape plan with the enumerated number of trees and shrubs, until they know that reduction in the buffer or setback is achievable through the Board of Zoning Appeals.
I see. I'm just, so it's really, it then is just a purely subjective matter? Objective standards for what constitutes an approvable
Well,
state?
because each application is a little bit different, as long as it is approvable. In other words, that the site layout plan, other than what they're requesting for a variance or whatever, meets those zoning and land development requirements ordinance.
I guess I'm still a little bit confused on that, but thanks for a little bit of that. It almost seems like it would be better to have a concrete, objective standard rather than just something that you don't know what it is.
We can we can look at adding that to the definition section of the ordinance.
I'm sure that would be helpful.
Yep.
Thank you.
Adam?
My question was just about definitions as well. You noted that there was updated definitions in your summary of proposed changes, and I didn't see where that was in the red line, and I just didn't know if there was anything significant there or just an oversight.
Absolutely. That's a great question, and it gives me an opportunity to clarify once more that the list included on this slide is actually the summary of the proposed changes to the actual historic preservation ordinance. So that is separate from the ZLDR amendments that we're reviewing today. If you are interested, those are available online and will be presented at our Historic Preservation Commission meeting this Wednesday at 2 p.m. in the same room, of course.
Anybody else? Any other questions? Okay. All right. I'm just asking to speak instead of saying if there's anybody here to support.
Just call and speak.
Okay. The following people have signed up to speak on this issue, so let's hear from Pearl Askew. Give us your name and address, please.
Good evening. Pearl Askew, 977 Gadsdenville Road, Allendale, 29429. Just hearing the explanation just a few minutes ago on the changes, I believe that we need more time just to understand it better and to digest it better, based on the fact that the Phillips community was one of the first communities that acquired the historical, yes, thank you. And I believe it's another community on James or Johns Island, along with 10 Mile and a few other communities. I think we probably need to just understand exactly how that's going to affect the historical preservation communities with these changes. Because what I just heard just now, based on the information that was said, we just need more time to digest it. Thank you, and I appreciate it.
Craig Askew.
Good afternoon. My name is Craig Askew. I live at 987 Gadsdenville Road. That's in Owendale, South Carolina. I oppose any amendments to to remove the subdivision plat application approvals from the Historic Preservation Commission. The federal government and state governments, with good intention and on purpose, have made this committee and made these changes so that people and communities who have been considered unincorporated, largely black settlement communities, can be a part of, more part of our local government, and to have some protections there to keep the culture in Charleston County alive. So I do not, I oppose any amendments to the current changes, and thank you. Thank you.
It's like Jerome and Veronica, but it doesn't say her last name. Jerome
And Veronica?
and Veronica?
Okay.
Okay. So do you have, and what's your last name, please?
Jerome Vanderhorst. Sorry about my writing. I live at 1039 Theodore Road, Owendale, South Carolina, 29429. Where do I start? Please appease me for a minute, everybody in the room. And if you are a resident of South Carolina, would you please raise your hands? I mean, council members too, if you are, please. I say that, I asked that question because I believe there's a hidden agenda there. And I think the hidden agenda is not protecting the people in the neighborhoods, in the settlement communities, and looking out for the developers. This is our state, this is our city, this is our town, this is our community. You know, the dinosaur is extinct. We don't want to become the dinosaurs in our community. We want our the next generation to live on. If we don't protect the land of the original people that settled there, the next generation, they will become distinct because of the land. The developers will push us out, and we don't want that to happen. You know, this affects everything when you change the ZLDR towards the HPC, because that's taking the power away from the people that's been on the part of those committees that's been put there to protect us. We don't want to be wiped out. The gentleman I saw on the slide, give me 30 more seconds. The slide before was talking about the energy element, you know, and I applaud Mr. Jones for talking about that, because that makes me think about, you know, the houses, the green space. All this stuff's going to affect the community. So if we change the ZLDR towards the HPC, we have no protection.
Okay.
It's like a domino effect.
Right.
So
Thank
please do not change. Make it work in conjunction with one another.
Thank
Don't
you,
take
sir.
away from
We're
one and add
limiting
to the
comments
other.
to 2 minutes.
Thank
So
you, ma'am.
thank you. Veronica, Vander, okay. Cora Swinton. Okay, whatever.
Again, just please make the ZLDR and the HPC work in conjunction with one another. Don't take away from the HPC. Add our protection to the ZLDR, please.
Cora Swinton.
Hi, I'm Cora Swinton from 1058 Gadsdenville Road.
Could you pull the microphone closer to your mouth?
Cora Swinton.
Thank you.
From 1058 Gadsdenville Road, Owendale, South Carolina. I stand here with my community, 10 Mile Neighborhood Associates and 10 Mile Historical Preservation Committee. I oppose the amendment to remove subdivision plaque application approval from the Historical Preservation Commission. Preview and place this authority under the Planning Commission because Section 6, 29-710 of South Carolina State Law, Article A, state that zoning ordinance must be for general purpose of guiding development in accordance with existing and future need and promoting public health, safety, moral, convenience, order, appearance, prosperity, and general welfare. To these ending, zoning ordinance must be made with reasonable consideration of the following purpose, where applicable, Section 4, to protect, preserve scenic, historic, and ecological sensitivity area. Therefore, any consideration for protecting historic area should remain under the expertise of the Historic Preservation Commission and not the Planning Commission. Thank you for allowing me to voice my opinion.
Thank you. All right. No one else had signed up to speak. Where are we?
This gentleman's raising his hand back here.
He didn't check the box.
Are you Richard Habersam?
He didn't check the box.
You forgot to check the box saying you wanted to speak. Hurry. I hear you.
Yes, my name is Richard Habersham. I live at 2938 Bennett Charles Road. And I go like with Ms. Askew. We really didn't have enough time to go through all this or really confront staff to explain. They're like, we was one of the first to get this designation. And we went through the staff and they explained to us everything but the procedure and how this would affect our community. And the biggest thing was that we wanted the protection. We didn't want it to become another sweetgrass basket overlay district. You know, on paper, that was a good zoning regulation, but practicality, it wasn't. When time come to implement it, it didn't really do nothing for our communities. So if you give us more time to digest all this and get back with staff so we can get more explanation on the zoning changes, it'll be very helpful to the communities. And it'll be helpful for the Phillips community. And thank you on that.
Thank you. Is there, before we have any discussion, is there a motion?
Move to accept staff's recommendations.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
Discussion? Adam?
Just a quick question. The last gentleman who spoke of the overlay districts, and I understand that part of the reason we're moving through with this one amendment is because we're not in alignment with state law, essentially. And so, but there must be other approaches that we can take, whether that be the subdivision regulations embedded within overlay districts and so forth. It sounds like that's been attempted in the past, maybe not to the greatest success. Are there improvements we can make on that process that could help find a functional way to give these communities the protection that they deserve while still maintaining sort of our legal sort of conformity with state law?
Mr. Connell, I can try to expand on that. So yes, that's correct. We are in conflict with state law, a pretty serious portion of state law that we want to correct as soon as possible. But we agree that the zoning ordinance should do whatever it can do to help protect neighborhoods, whether it's one of the historic districts or some other. We think that the overlay district process is the way to do that. We could impact anything in the area, zoning-wise, whether it be lot size, density, uses, which we've been already worked with the 10 Mile community on. They have taken the lead in helping draft a overlay district for the community. We look forward to getting with the representatives from the 10 Mile community and presenting that to Planning Commission as soon as possible so that they can get into place the zoning regulations that they want and be compliant with the law.
Backing on that, I was wondering, and maybe this is where we are right now, but if we had an HPC kind of recommendation, like for a subdivision plat, that they're not approving or, recommending approval or not, but it goes through them and then to us? Or is that how it currently is and that's the issue?
I think the issue is that it gets presented to the HPC in the format that the HPC has authority to reflect on the subdivision and impact it. And that is not the role of the HPC in state law. It's the role of Planning Commission.
Thank you. Let's see. Well, when I read the HPC stuff, I didn't see a specific charge of reviewing subdivision plats. They do this certificate of appropriateness, but I guess they're supposed to look more at the development patterns and approve that, which I guess could be construed as a subdivision plat approval in some form or fashion. And actually, the subdivision plats can be approved either by the Planning Commission or staff, as provided in the state code. And I think, if I understand correctly, they're approved at staff level, that the Planning Commission has delegated the preliminary plat to staff, and I think the ordinance says that the final plat goes to staff. But anyways, it seems to be a conflict between objective standards, which are typically what you find in a zoning code, what you fellows were talking about. Those would be things that are concrete, like density, lot size, setback, heights, and that controls a development pattern. And those things can be spelled out in a code that's what they are. And any deviation from those would require approval from the Board of Zoning Appeals in order to change those things. Where it gets a little more squishy is with the subjective standards of a review of a board or commission. They tend to speak more to things like size, bulk, mass, compatibility, and things of that nature. And all this, I think, kind of came to a head with the Sergeant Jasper downtown. The beach company wanted to redo it, and the judge basically said, well, your purview is limited to certain respects, but the zoning of the property controls. They were trying to control the height of the building, and the judge said, no, you can't do that. But that was a trial court. It didn't go further, and they reached a compromise, and everybody made nice, and it was okay. And the reason why it didn't go further, because there were big stakes, and if either side was going to lose, one side's going to lose, and they'd lose big. And those guys wanted the ability to still retain the right to control certain aspects of it. So I think if the issue is controlling the development pattern of these settlement communities, I think that's the big issue. I'm not quite sure that uses are there. From what we've seen before, the one that caused the big kerfuffle was more of a cul-de-sac street with lots, and that's not by a different developer. I think maybe a volume builder, and that's generally not what occurs in these settlement communities. But if that's the desire to protect that, and seemingly it would be, because that's a crucial component of the historical character of these neighborhoods, that could be done under the auspices of the zoning code, either through an overlay district or even making these their own geographically defined district with more objective standards that when they come in, you say, well, you check the box. Does it meet this, 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 this? No, it doesn't. Well, you got to get a variance. We can't approve it. Thank you.
Seeing no further discussion, would you please call the roll? Oh, let's see, it's to approve, okay. Go ahead.
Okay, Commissioner Logan Davis,
Aye.
Commissioner Marlena Davis,
Nay.
Chair Floyd,
Aye.
Commissioner Jones, Commissioner McConnell, Commissioner Morris, Vice Chair Pilatos,
Aye.
Commissioner Praza.
I'm a vote no because I'd like to see the other changes first. Nay, thank you.
Ayes have it.
Ayes have it. Okay, County Council will hear this request at an upcoming public hearing on September 12th, 2023 at 6:30 PM in council chambers, and also at their September 21st, 2023 Planning and Public Works Committee meeting at 5 PM. The request must then undergo 3 readings for approval at County Council's discretion. I don't have any remarks, and so there's no further business. This meeting of the Charleston County Planning Commission is adjourned. Next meeting will be Monday, September 11th, 2023, here in council chambers at 2 o'clock. Woo.
It is?
Yeah.
I don't remember my day.
Yeah, but-